Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and I'm looking at the interesting Butterworths Company Law Handbook, which is now in its 24th edition. It's edited by Keith Walmsley and is an excellent Butterworths LexisNexis publication. It's a very heavy book, and I'll get on to how much is in it in a minute, but let me just show you a little bit of the book itself. It starts off with the old Companies legislation, the Companies Act of 1985. Then we get on to the main current Consolidated Act of 2006. You've then got another act, which is the Financial Services and Markets Act there. Then you've got a huge section on the statutory instruments, which is all the governing nitty-gritty of what we do. Then at the back you've got a very useful, very detailed index, if I can just show that to you. What you've got at the side as well is useful colour coding there to find things quite quickly. The pages, do beware, they're just like stones, very, very flimsy indeed, because you've got nearly 4,000 pages in this book, believe it or not. It's extremely heavy, and of course the difficulty is that if you start opening it up, pages are going to come out quite quickly. However, that's not the problem. The big problem is trying to get your way through it. It's nicely structured, as I say, and you'll see that from the way that the colour sections or the black and white bits are marked off to find exactly what you're after. And of course what you do have, which is what we always want and what we get with LexisNexis, is that you've got the detail of the legislation, then you've got the notes, which tells you a bit about it, and that's of course what's relevant to me and to others as practitioners. Now, we've given it a review title, The Blue Book, in its latest edition, the Essential Company Law Reference Work. I'm using the term company law, that's what I'm familiar with. I know it's called corporate governance in certain circumstances, but I know it as company law, and that's what I keep it as. We say this, though, that the introduction of this handbook says it all. Here, in convenient and up-to-date form, in almost 3,800 pages, is the full text of the most important company law statutes, statutory instruments and European legislation that we have. And it's in one volume, heavy though it may be. It's published annually, and it's essential reference material because it keeps you abreast and up to date of the most recent developments in company law, vital if you're a company lawyer, or for that matter an accountant, company secretary, tax advisor, student, or someone in any way involved in the financial services industry itself. Can I say, when I was a student, we didn't actually have, or I didn't actually use this sort of material in those days, because I'm obviously used the Companies Act 1985, which dates me rather, but we did have something similar. And again, this is just the sort of thing that's very, very helpful if you're reading for a degree in that particular area, especially because you've got commentaries on the very controversial sections. Now, this is part of the Lexis Library Service, and their electronic versions of the handbook are also now available, including a CD version, which is updated monthly, and that's a very useful innovation. Vis-à-vis financial services, it's useful to note that the handbook contains selected provisions of the Financial Services and Markets Act, which I alluded to earlier, and you can see that bit, which is just there. It's almost halfway through. You see where my finger is. Those requiring the full text of the Act and other specialist financial materials obviously are referred to Butterworth's Handbook companion volumes, but this is obviously all in one volume. You've got things like the loose leaf works on banking law, financial services law and so on, but that's not the purpose of this. This is the main handbook. It's logically organised throughout, and it's very thorough and authoritative as a work of reference. It contains any number of tables and other graphic devices to ensure ease of use. It's difficult to try and show in this short clip how it's done, but what you do have, as I say, are the important notes which are given, and you do have useful cross-referencing that does occur throughout the handbook itself. I'm not going to go into much detail about the structure of the book because you can see from the side how it is, and also right at the front you've got some indication of how the comments are. The preface, there are the comments there. The preface itself does give you some indication of what changes Mr. Walmsley has had to make with this edition. But can I also say that one of the important things is that if you haven't acquired this new edition, you will undoubtedly need it in the future, bearing in mind the massive amount of new material which is contained in it. It's rather too extensive to list here, but we will mention that it includes the legislation governing partnerships and limited liability partnerships, and almost also notably over 25 pieces of European legislation which deal with such matters as insolvency, market abuse, takeovers, prospectuses and transparency. Let me just conclude by saying that this volume, to say it's helpful to the professional practitioner in company law, is to understate the case. Frankly, we would call it indispensable. And it's in one volume. So thank you very much, and also thank you for producing it on a regular basis, because we can only keep up to date with this subject if we have the most up-to-date information. So thank you to the team involved, and bye-bye for now.